depending on the length, I will be separating these into 2 episodes. But next we're going to discuss, what comes afterwards, which is basically like, okay, what is work burnout? What does burning out at your job look like? I think that it definitely is different for each person, because everyone's job is different and it entails different types of stress. It entails different types of responsibilities and different types of people that you encounter. And so I'm going to first hand the floor, I don't know why I used that word, to Audrey to talk about her different part-time and full-time jobs that she did like over the years that she's been in Canada. So you can go ahead.
Gotcha.
I would say for my job experience, it has been pretty chill. Like, I would say, very thankfully, all the jobs that I've had or currently have right now isn't exactly what I would like pursue for long term. It's like they're all within my interest. I like them.
Right.
And I fortunately have pretty good coworkers, except for you, in my previous job. Like for this job, because I still want to work in there, so I would say I have amazing coworkers. I have a very understanding boss, and like
Right.
that understands that we're all like student employees, and we have a very tight schedule. And sometimes we do work on our own stuff during work hours, which is not ideal. But
Right.
like I still am able to like maintain a very flexible work schedule along with my school schedule, and that make balancing the two of them possible for me. And I would say one thing that I've learned over the years, which I mean I haven't really worked for that long, but one thing I've learned is it's very easy for you to just see your job as your life and your work family as
Right.
like your entire world. And I would suggest that it's okay to keep work family close, but your job should just be a job. Like, you go to the job, you earn your salary, you do your due diligence, and when you are off work, you can have an entire different life compared to when you're at work, because I think it's really important for people, like especially when you actually enter the workforce, to separate like the sort of a work life from your actual life, or else it can become like you're constantly like thinking over what you need to do during work, and then you don't actually get the rest that you need, and you wouldn't be able to perform as well when you actually clock in and start working again. And I would say that because all jobs at work and still working are like part-time jobs, and they're not as mentally taxing, and they doesn't require you to like be on call 24/7. So I would say it's easier to separate that work-life balance and having like a different life outside of work. But I could foresee the future where if I do get a corporate job, it would be a little bit more difficult, and also like I wouldn't have like different fears of I'm on one side I'm a student, I have like school, I have like classmates and friends from school, and also like on the other sphere I have like work and friends from work and friends I actually didn't meet outside of work. And so like it's easier for me to say, but I would say like for people that's actually entered the workforce, it might be a lot difficult, because while you spend 8 to 10 hours at your job, when you come home, you probably just want to eat some junk food and lie in your bed and sleep, and then you wake up and go to work again. And so, like, I think it would be very important to have like a friend group outside of like work friends. But it's also like sometimes if your job is very demanding, let's just say.
Yeah.
Like, your work friends and your work family are the only one there to help you to get through it. And so that's why you build like you tend to build a very close relationship with your work friends. But it's just
Right.
like, well, it's not a bad idea to also maintain your friendships outside of those work friends.
Right.
You know.
I think you definitely talked about like something that I've experienced, which is like building relationships with people who you work with, and that's sometimes like part of the culture at where I work. Wait, one second, let me start over for that response. Okay,
Take your time.
so like I think you talked about like relationship, building friendships or relationships, whatever we may call it, with people you work with, and how that can be sometimes a little bit trippy because like like it's hard to separate work and non-work situations. And I think that that's something that I definitely need to work on in my personal life. Because sometimes like I think that I identify really strongly with where I work and who I work as. And I think that that has sometimes become an obstacle into me seeing things that are perhaps not so good happening to me in the workplace and just ignoring it. And it's hard for me to judge what is like fair and what is not fair when there's a sort of like bias, I guess you can call it. Because like some of the people I work with are like friends of mine, be it not close, but just friends of mine. And that sometimes can become very blurry, like it's like, okay, what am I supposed to think about the situation? And then suddenly it's like, oh wait, like what if my friend doesn't like the fact that I think this about the situation? That can be very like annoying at times, and I think that that in itself has led to some of the burnout that I experience with work. Aside for the massive amount of hours I've worked during like the holidays and stuff like that, I think that for that purpose and intent, there's a lot more that I need to learn for sure. But I'm trying my best to differentiate recently. Okay, so like this is about work. This is strictly about work. This is like, okay, I'm just being friends with another individual person, regardless of who they are or like who they are working as, if that makes sense. And so that in itself has led to some burnout in the past, but I'm working on it. And I think like the journey is way more important for me than what's happening right now. And so like that's why I wanted to bring this up, because like it's still a work in progress in all honesty, but yeah, we're all doing that. We're all trying to learn as we go.
Yeah. I mean, we don't have to have everything figured out, especially like we're still in our early 20s. Like a lot of like future in our life is still pretty much like we can't really see where it's going. Like we're just generally trying to find a way that,
Mm-hmm.
works for me or works for us, or like some like, like a future goal that you can foresee yourself pursuing. But so
Right.
like I guess like once you encounter certain experience, it makes you realize certain things. You get epiphanies, and you're like, wait, actually, like I've heard this kind of advice from other people, and now it actually clicks for me and makes sense for me. But before you actually reach a situation, it might be a lot for you to actually understand. And so I think like for us, we definitely experience a lot. I wouldn't say like a lot more than like our peers, but like we experience a lot for our age. And
Mm-hmm.
so like that's what pretty much motivates us to do the podcast in the first place, just to
Yeah.
talk about our personal life and everything. And I definitely like think that like now that I've actually talked more about my beliefs, like it actually makes more sense also in my head, like
Yeah.
about work-life balances and everything. Because oh god, I can be like a very unmotivated person, like if I am very burnt out. But I'm just glad that we get to talk about this like sort of thing more,
Me
and
too.
to actually bring more like awareness to people like
Yeah.
who are, well, not vibing and not like thriving in their current like environment, because it's very important also to find an environment that works for you. Like if you find a environment that is constantly stressing you out and like burning you out, if it's university, fine. You get out of here in 4 years, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully,
But
yeah.
if it's like a workplace, then it's like, you have the option to stay and continue to endure the same treatment, or you can go, like
Right.
a job is a job, and you'll always, find an opportunity with, like your experience and, like your knowledge. Like, you find a job that works for you, no problem.
I certainly hope so. Yeah, I just think that all in all, like, when we're talking about work and school burnout, it occurs to everyone, and I think, like, the purpose, like Audrey said, was to bring some awareness to this, whether or not, like, a lot of people see it or not. It's more that we want to talk about it, and we've experienced it. And, like, that, like, is hopefully important to some of you who are, like, watching this video, whether it be, like, 10 years later from now, 5 years later from now, or just, like, immediately. I don't know. Whenever that happens, I hope that this does help you understand that, number one, you're not, like, alone in this, and, like, a lot of us experience it. And I know that, like, sometimes in university, especially, it can seem like you're the one that's not trying it hard enough, and, like, there's always people who are, like, oh, like, they're so motivated, and they're so good at dealing with school and stuff like that. Yeah, those people do exist. But please understand that, like, they also have their own, like, struggles, and they also have their own, like, issues with school, and it's not all, like, amazing. And what you're seeing is also just, like, like a small part of their life. And so that is what I wanted to bring out with this episode, and hopefully it does come across as that way, because I try my best to be very engaged in this conversation, because I'm currently doing this, and, like, it's that in itself is stressful. And, like, yeah, I hope you all have learned something, and, like, I think that this episode will go up pretty soon, hopefully in time for those of you still going through finals to listen to it, and, like, still, like, hopefully relate to some of this. Yeah. Alright, everyone, so that will mark the end of this possibly 2-part episode of Genshin. Thank you all so much for watching. I really enjoyed talking about something that's very close to my life, something that is very close to both of our lives, in fact. And I think that my most important motivation for making this episode is not to just share our experiences, which is still important, but to hopefully make some of you out there relate. And so hope this kind of helped you understand what's going on in students' final seasons, and, like, people who are going through intense stress at work, both of those things. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.